Are you confused about how Unity's daily and weekly scopes work with Apple GameCenter Leaderboards? You're not alone. Today, we're diving into this topic to clarify what scores you can expect when using these scopes. It's frustrating when documentation seems to contradict itself, especially when you're trying to implement features in your game. Many developers have faced this exact issue, and it's completely understandable to feel lost. Here's the specific question we're addressing. One user asked, "When I use Unity's timescope to fetch daily scores from GameCenter, what exactly do I get? Are they scores from today or from the last 24 hours? If you've wondered the same, stick around as we break this down. To understand this better, we need to look at how Unity and Apple's documentation define these scopes. Unity's timescope.today suggests scores from today, while Apple's documentation mentions scores from the past 24 hours. This can be quite confusing. And don't go anywhere. At the end of this video, I'll share a tip that can help you avoid these kinds of issues in the future. To clarify the differences between Unity's daily scope and Apple's GameCenter, the user should first understand that Unity's timescope.today returns scores from today, but this is based on the local time zone of the device. In contrast, Apple's GameCenter defines today's scores as those recorded in the past 24 hours. Therefore, when using Unity's timescope to fetch daily scores, the user will receive scores from the past 24 hours, not just today's date. Now, regarding the weekly scope, the user should note that Unity's weekly scores are also based on the local time zone. This means it reflects scores from the current week, starting from the last Sunday. However, if the user is using Apple's GameCenter, the weekly scores are defined as the last 168 hours, which means it does not depend on the current day of the week. In summary, when fetching scores using Unity's timescope, the user will get scores from the past 24 hours for daily queries and scores from the current week for weekly queries, based on the local time zone. Fun fact: did you know that the concept of leaderboards in gaming dates back to the early arcade days? Players would compete for high scores, and now we have digital leaderboards that can track scores globally. Now, let's look at the answers provided by other users. One user conducted an experiment using timescope.today with load scores. They found that when they posted a high score at 5 p.m. and a lower score the next day at 10 a.m., the higher score was still returned. However, when they posted the lower score again at 6 p.m., which was more than 24 hours after the higher score, the lower score was returned instead. This indicates that social.timescope.daily retrieves scores from the past 24 hours, regardless of the specific date. The user assumes that the same logic applies to the weekly scope, suggesting that it also retrieves scores based on hours rather than specific dates. Here's a tip to keep in mind. Always check the documentation for both Unity and Apple when working with leaderboards. This can save you a lot of time and confusion. And there you have it. Now you know how Unity's daily and weekly scopes work with Apple GameCenter Leaderboards. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more insights, and don't forget to check out our other videos for more tips.